I make spring. I don't know. I'm the popular. It's different call. Okay, I'm trying to explain how y'all not getting it.
These are the worst things to get caught on live stream in the form of an iceberg. We'll start with the more strange, and as the video progresses, the footage will become increasingly terrifying and horrific. I made this iceberg myself, and it delves into the worst incidents ever captured on a live stream. Viewer discretion is highly advised. Level 1. Kai Cenat New York Riot. In August 2023, popular Twitch streamer Kai Cenat organized a video game console giveaway in New York City's Union Square, promising that a handful of people would win a PlayStation 5. Of course, that was too good of an offer to turn up for many of his followers. So when the big giveaway day arrived, Kai found himself surrounded by thousands and thousands of his followers, all of whom were desperate to win. But the chaos was so extreme that Union Square became totally chaotic. The NYPD deployed 1,000 officers to try and control the chaos, but the arrival of the authorities just riled the crowd up even more. Within minutes, Kai's fans began a violent riot, throwing objects at the police, climbing on vehicles, and setting off fire extinguishers to create even more confusion. By the time Kai left the scene, he had a bunch of fans hanging onto his car. 65 people were ultimately arrested at the riot, 30 of them were juvenile offenders, and Cenat himself was taken into police custody facing charges of inciting a riot and unlawful assembly. But for Kai Cenat, the whole thing resolved itself pretty nicely. By May 2024, when he finally faced the consequences, the judge decided that there was no value in prosecuting him. Instead, it would be better for him to pay $55,000 in restitution and issue a public apology online where all of his fans could see it. Rob CD. In 2020, Rob CD, an Australian Twitch streamer living in Tokyo, was doing one of his usual streams. He was out in the city, hanging with his friends and with locals, taking in the sights. But then something strange happened. Out of nowhere, a Moroccan woman passed by looking extremely distressed and uncomfortable as she spoke with a guy. When she finally reached Rob and his crew, she told a man who was with her that she was with her friend, suggesting that he go somewhere else. That was when Rob realized she was being followed by this creepy guy, and he had to help. Rob played along without a second thought, greeting the woman as though they had been friends forever. He even spoke with the stalker, having a little chat before sending him off on his way. It turned out that this guy had followed the girl for 2 days, leaving her with a deep feeling of unease and concern for her safety as a tourist in Japan. But Rob's quick thinking likely ended up saving this girl's life, and his ability to handle the situation without any drama or escalation made him a hero to his many followers. In fact, this is such a common thing for him that he's now forever known as the Angel of Shibuya. Playmate Tessie. January 2021. Twitch streamer Maya West, also known as Playmate Tessie, is streaming as per usual. But instead of playing games, she's hanging out on the video chat website Omegle, joking and chatting with the total strangers that happen to appear on her screen. But then came a girl with a serious medical condition, leukemia. Maya's instinctive response was to mock her.
You're fat, you're ugly, you look deformed, you're poor, and you have cancer and no hair, and your wig's crooked, by the way, fix that.
She made endless rude and derogatory comments about her appearance, calling her fat and ugly, even going so far as to threaten to sue her and take away her treatment funds. The whole stream was such an unimaginable disaster that her followers rejected her overwhelmingly for her horrific, narcissistic, and cruel treatment of an innocent person. Overnight, she lost thousands of followers, earning herself unending aggression on social media by people who thought she was cruel and insensitive. And as if all of this was not bad enough, just 2 weeks later, she fell asleep during her live stream while her dad and sister were arguing and yelling about a lot of personal details. Well, all of her outraged fans went and found her dad's workplace, sending in the clips of her making comments about people with cancer and costing her dad his job. By the time she was back on stream, her dad sent a very clear message.
I need you at my house. I'm gonna be home in an hour. You better not be there.
I'm trying to delete. I can't delete it.
I don't know. You should have never added on.
I was sleeping. I didn't know you were screaming.
He wanted her out of his house, disgusted that she would do such a thing in front of the world. And of course, she reacted in her usual spoiled brat way, reporting him to the police for alleged abuse. In a single stream, Maya basically ruined her entire streaming career and her life, forced to stream from a crappy hotel room while her dad ripped her to pieces. Zillion OP fake disability. Early days of Twitch, Zillion OP was an extremely promising streamer. His World of Warcraft streams would draw thousands and thousands of viewers, many of whom admired him personally for the hardships he had faced. Zillion OP was paralyzed from the waist down thanks to a brutal and severe car crash. He had always streamed in a wheelchair, which is why it was so surprising when on April 5th, 2013, during a stream with his girlfriend, he said he had to go AFK and, thinking he had swapped his overlays, he stood up from his wheelchair and walked out of frame, only to immediately realize his mistake. But when he came back to tilt the camera down, the damage was done. The viewers were stunned, immediately calling him out in the chat over what they had just witnessed. Shortly after, Zillion and his girlfriend tried to explain the situation, claiming that Zillion had fallen while trying to stop his dog messing with his computer cables. It made absolutely no sense to anybody, especially since the camera caught the reflection of a fish tank, clearly showing him standing up and walking away. The scandal went viral, forcing Twitch to permanently ban Zillion from the platform for fraudulent practices. In total, it's believed he had received around $20,000 in donations, all because he pretended that he could not walk. Jake and Bake. Twitch streamer Jake and Bake was in the middle of a late-night stream in Korea discussing his equipment setup while standing outside of a kebab shop when he noticed an uncomfortable and clearly distressed young woman rushing past with a man. It was something that Jake had seen before on other streams. When she spotted that Jake was in the middle of a live stream to thousands of people, she immediately made a beeline to him, pulling the "Sorry, I'm here with my friend" card with him. It was pretty obvious to Jake that she did not know nor want to know this man. She was being followed against her wishes. So, Jake did what he had to do, playing along and talking to her as though they had always known her, encouraging the stalker to just keep walking and leave her alone. Of course, they had never met before, but Jake knew that she needed help to escape what could have been a seriously dangerous situation. The woman thanked him the minute that the guy left, admitting that she had felt like she was in serious danger. Jake had done a very good thing, potentially saving this woman from a pretty grim fate. Level 2. Mr. Big. On October 1st, 2015, Mr. Big was live streaming on Twitch when he had a sudden and strange knock at the door, despite it being around 11:30 p.m. It was the police. Apparently, there had been a noise complaint reported at Mr. Big's house, but he did not believe he had done anything wrong and had no interest in complying with the incident. He totally refused to provide his name to the responding officer. Of course, that wasn't received well. The officer had a job to do and was determined to do it no matter what. After a long discussion about his rights as a citizen, Mr. Big was arrested and escorted out of the apartment. But shortly after Mr. Big's arrest, a burglar took advantage of Mr. Big's arrest and the unlocked door, stealing as much as he wanted: Nike Air Jordans, a gaming headset, a wallet, and a cell phone. Unfortunately, the arrest had happened during a live stream, so the entire thing was captured live on camera, and the viewers promptly reported the incident to the police. It turned out that the burglar was Mr. Big's own neighbor, who was arrested and charged with felony offenses. All of Mr. Big's stolen property was returned. Dum Dum G's Dine and Dash. It was October 24th, 2024, and Kick streamer Dum Dum G's was taking part in a contest organized by a fellow streamer. The best date stream would win $50,000. So Dum Dum decided he would take a homeless woman on a date to a classy restaurant. The whole date was streamed with Dum Dum and the woman ordering all the food that they wanted on the assumption that Dum Dum would be paying. But when the bill finally came, Dum Dum claimed he left his wallet in the car and fled the restaurant.
I think I left my wallet in my car. I'll be right back. All right. Hold on. My name's ATM, Nari. Okay. Thank you.
Hopping into a rideshare vehicle while Mabel was still in the restaurant. Dum Dum kept the stream running while he dined and dashed, leaving the homeless woman with the challenge of finding a way to pay the bill. But by this point, the stream had already gone viral, outraging pretty much everybody who saw it. Dum Dum's exploitation of the homeless woman touched a serious nerve, with many people calling for his total ban from every single platform. And the co-founder of Kick agreed, permanently banning Dum Dum and offering a $50,000 reward to anyone who could help him connect with the homeless woman to make it right. But Dum Dum now faced a serious challenge, saving his streaming career. When he finally came to discuss the problem, he claimed that the whole thing was scripted and that the homeless woman was in on it from the beginning, but it didn't stop the outrage whatsoever. Ice Poseidon's run-in with a mob gangster. Live streamer Ice Poseidon was in the middle of an IRL stream at an Italian restaurant in Los Angeles when he was suddenly confronted by an irate man claiming to be the owner of the restaurant and a member of the local mafia. He told Ice that many of the other customers had complained about him, warning him that the sooner he left, the better. It was an ominous warning, one that his followers urged him to take seriously.
I'm getting about 30 calls about you on my phone, and I'm a gangster. So you better leave here right now before there's trouble with yourself. You understand that? You're the mob over here. You better leave now. Got it?
So Ice promptly left the restaurant, but his curiosity got the better of him. A little while later, he went back to the restaurant to understand what the complaints had been, and much to his confusion, he discovered that the guy who threatened him was not the owner. Actually, he was just a delivery guy, who wasn't even working at the restaurant at the time he had threatened Ice. In fact, the real owner had to tell Ice that the guy almost definitely had just exaggerated or entirely made up any ties to the mafia. At no point had Ice ever been in any danger, nor had any complaints been made about his behavior. This was simply some guy who wanted to make an impression on the stream. And he definitely did that. Pokimane fires her editor. During one of her Twitch streams, Pokimane started to recall an incident in which she had to fire one of her video editors for an insanely inappropriate and disturbing reason. The editor was consistently missing deadlines, often delivering videos a week or two late. When she confronted him about the delays and demanded an explanation, he told her a little too much.
Hey, do you have time to talk? I'm ready to finally tell you why I've been struggling so much with deadlines. And I said, oh, great. Hopefully this is something that we can fix. Tell me why he proceeds to tell me that the reason why he would sometimes turn around videos a week or two late is because he couldn't stop touching himself.
He admitted that he couldn't meet the deadlines because he couldn't stop touching himself. Pokimane clarified that the editor never said it was specifically about her, but the confession was highly inappropriate and unprofessional regardless, especially given that she had been sending him hours of unedited footage for his work. Despite the incident, Pokimane continued to pay the editor for a few months, viewing his behavior as an addiction problem. But eventually she realized the gravity of the situation and completely terminated the working relationship. The story quickly went viral, with other female or women-identifying streamers admitting that they too had experienced the same kind of harassment, and that it was commonplace in just about all aspects of streaming. Your Fellow Arab. Addison Pierre Malouf, also known as Your Fellow Arab, is a YouTube personality who is famous for going to the most dangerous places in the world and filming his experiences there. Pretty much everywhere he's gone, he's been held at gunpoint or worse. But one of the most alarming live stream experiences came in Miami. Arab wasn't in the most dangerous place he had ever been. Nigeria was intense and Brazil was pretty dangerous. But Florida, by comparison, should be fairly easy. But while he was streaming in a park, he settled down next to a random guy who wanted money for drugs. Arab told him he had no money and that he was tired of being disrespected by a stranger, but that's when everything took a turn. The guy started telling him that he was a gang member who was willing to kill anybody who crossed his path and pulled out a gun to prove it. Sensing the danger, Arab quickly got up and fled the scene, even as the guy kept screaming at him. Again, this was not the most dangerous place he had ever been. This was Florida. But even he knew when to leave trouble alone. Carl Reimer. It was March 2020, and Carl Reimer was streaming Call of Duty to his 100,000 Twitch followers while drinking. At one point, one of his followers had made some kind of joke, prompting Carl to grab a gun and jokingly threaten the viewer. But in doing so, he accidentally pulled the trigger, discharging the gun, which had one live round inside. The bullet tore through a metal cup, ricocheted, and destroyed his computer monitor. Nobody was hurt, thankfully, but Carl knew he would face consequences for this. Almost immediately, Twitch suspended his account, and his esports team, Soar Gaming, immediately dropped him from the squad. Carl came back to post an apology video acknowledging his mistake and taking full responsibility for his actions, making it clear that guns are not toys and should never be handled irresponsibly, especially while intoxicated like he was. But the damage was done, and while many of his followers applauded him for taking responsibility for his own stupidity, it was too late to undo it. He had already lost many of the streaming collaborations he had worked so hard to achieve. iShowSpeed swatted. It was November 2023, and iShowSpeed was celebrating the purchase of his new $10 million home with a fun Fortnite stream to his over 10 million subscribers. But then everything took a very sudden and abrupt turn, all thanks to his followers. iShowSpeed quickly and suddenly left his streaming setup, telling his followers that he had to step away for his own safety. Suddenly, the room was full of armed police officers, and that was when everybody realized what was going on. He had been swatted again. Just a year earlier, iShowSpeed had been swatted and handcuffed on stream, all because someone online decided to call in a fake emergency call to get as many police to his new house as possible. The situation was so terrifying to Speed that he took to Snapchat to express his frustration, warning viewers about how dangerous the whole thing was and how close he came to dying. He begged his followers to stop the whole thing and to think of the streamers, their families, and their well-being. But, of course, streamers continue to be victims of this horrifying pattern. Car Snob Car Crash. In December 2024, a Kick streamer named Car Snob was doing an IRL stream from inside his car. But while he was stationary in his vehicle, another car approached from behind and rear-ended him in a pretty serious accident. Now, for most people, they would immediately be concerned about the other person's well-being or worried about the damage that could have been caused. But instead, Car Snob's instant reaction was to urge his followers to clip it.
Wow, that's a clip! Clip it! Clip it! That dude was rolling! Oh my god, clip it!
So he could use it for his social media. The broadcast continued after that, with the streamer constantly expressing his excitement that it got caught on camera. He was upset about the damage, of course, noting that his rear window was damaged and his car likely totaled, but he didn't seem to care about any of that, only that it was captured for the world to see. The footage quickly went viral, with many viewers expressing total disbelief that Carsnob was so much more concerned about getting it clipped than actually paying attention or checking on the other person. Of course, some people pointed out that the footage would be valuable when it came to claiming insurance, as it would prove that Carsnob didn't actually cause the incident. It didn't reflect particularly well on him, however. Level 3. Redempto gets choked. It was February 13th, 2022, and Redempto was doing an IRL stream in Amsterdam. These streams were the most popular things he did on his channel, but he had something of a history of encountering some pretty awful people willing to harass and assault him on stream. Today, however, was worse. Walking through downtown Amsterdam, the streamer was approached by a clearly intoxicated man who suddenly grabbed him by the throat and told the followers that he was going to kill the streamer. He choked Redempto until he lost consciousness, and while the stream continued, all the followers could see was a black screen and the concern of their fellow viewers. It was one of the most horrifying things they had ever witnessed. The next day, Redempto updated his fans that he was safe, but that he had hit his head and was planning to file a police report. Fortunately, Redempto managed to get a clear shot of the attacker's face on stream. Within a few hours, the attacker, a 20-year-old, was located and arrested for assault. But this is far from the only incident Redempto has ever suffered. Summit 1G Pokemon Park swatting. It was July 2016, and Twitch streamer Summit 1G was live streaming the biggest game of the moment, Pokemon Go. He had headed to a local public park to try and capture the Pokemon there when someone in the comments posted a pretty concerning comment. Police were in the park searching for someone with an AK-47. Nobody really thought anything of the claim until just moments later, armed officers suddenly appeared approaching Summit and his friend with their rifles drawn. They had received a false report of an armed individual in the park that matched their descriptions. They had been swatted. Summit handled the situation calmly and reasonably, cooperating fully with the police and their instructions. But he was always aware that they had their weapons trained on the pair from various positions. As they were ordered to walk backward toward police, the stream went dead. Later that afternoon, Summit posted to Twitter informing his followers that everything was just fine. The police had been friendly enough and understood the situation. But since then, Summit has been swatted many more times, even coming to describe himself as the most swatted streamer on Twitch. It's a title that has forced him to relocate his family members multiple times, something that continues to frustrate him. Dr. Disrespect's house shooting. It was September 2018, and Guy, Dr. Disrespect Beam, was streaming Call of Duty Black Ops 4 from the comfort of his California home. But he suddenly heard a strange noise coming from outside. When he suddenly left his chair to investigate the noise, he found the terrifying source of the noise. Someone had shot at his house, breaking the upstairs window while his family was at home, and he had to immediately end the stream. In fact, this was the second incident in 2 days involving someone shooting out one of his windows. Just days earlier, someone had shot the window of his car, leaving him with a distinct impression that someone wanted him dead. The San Diego Sheriff's Department later clarified that someone had fired a BB gun at the house, not a real weapon. But the force required to shadow a window is pretty intense, so it's safe to say that even that did not bring comfort to Guy. And the authorities had no idea who actually fired the weapon. All they knew was that the shots likely came from a nearby park. They had no idea of potential suspects, and they didn't even believe that Guy was being targeted because of his internet fame. When he returned, he assured everyone that he was just fine, but unwilling to discuss the situation further. Sarah Kate's cat. In September 2014, Twitch streamer Sarah Kate was in the middle of a Black Ops 2 stream when she decided to take a break from gaming. She reached for her beloved cat Olive, who had been perched on the back of her chair. But something suddenly changed inside the cat. Olive lashed out for no particular reason, scratching Sarah with full claws and catching her eye in the process. The injury was caught on camera, and it was so bloody and severe that her followers were seriously concerned. Sarah did not hesitate to end the stream and rushed to the hospital for treatment, but it turned out that she got very lucky. Sarah had been wearing contact lenses, which may have well prevented more serious damage to her cornea, but Olive had managed to scratch both her eyeball and the surrounding lid, causing quite a bit of damage. However, the medical experts assured her that she would make a full and healthy recovery within a few weeks. The video quickly went viral, bringing a lot of new attention to Sarah and her cat, and prompting her to start selling merch based on the incident. Within 2 years, Sarah had been fully recovered enough that she could look back on the whole thing from a more comfortable and far less scary perspective. Arab Andy. It was June 2018, and a YouTube prankster known as Arab Andy wanted to perform his biggest stunt yet, pranking the University of Washington. He came up with this whole elaborate plan that would scare everybody and guarantee the video to go viral. He walked into a classroom during an end-of-year reception carrying a phone and a speaker. Raising it into the air, he played a message stating that a bomb had been activated and a countdown had begun.
C4 has been successfully activated. Bomb detonation countdown successfully started.
Everyone in the building had only a short space of time to escape before they would be killed. The 30 people present freaked out exactly as Andy had planned. They desperately fled the room, activating the fire alarm in the process. The university took the threat deadly seriously, evacuating several nearby buildings as a precaution. But all of this was fake. Andy had begun the prank entirely because a viewer donated $4.20. And even after all of the chaos was unfolding on campus, he continued to live stream people's terrified reactions to his prank in total amusement and satisfaction. University of Washington police did not find it funny. They quickly tracked him down and arrested him, charging him with the crime of making a bomb threat. There was never an actual bomb, but the incident caused significant distress and disruption to faculty and students. Andy quickly faced the consequences of such a foolish prank. A judge set his bail at $75,000, ordering him to stay off YouTube before the trial. He was ultimately sentenced to 2 years in jail. Angel Walks. 23-year-old Army veteran and Twitch streamer Angel Walks was taking part in a live Call of Duty Warzone tournament in July 2020, when he suddenly heard a series of loud bangs and screams outside of his bedroom. Knowing that something was strange about the whole situation, he paused his stream. Viewers had no idea, but Angel had just discovered that his brother Roberto had just been found unresponsive in his room. Knowing that it would be wrong to even try and go ahead with the stream given the tragedy happening in the next room, Angel had to tell the truth. Returning to the stream, Angel told his viewers that his brother had died and that he had to leave right away. It was later revealed that Roberto had died of an overdose, but the worst was yet to come. Angel and his family started encountering a series of unexpected challenges in their efforts to honor Roberto's life. The funeral costs were far higher than anybody knew they would be, forcing Angel to turn to his streaming community for help in funding them. The gaming community he had built quickly rallied around him, exceeding his fundraising goal in their support. Sajidine robbed on stream. Nikki Elise, also known as Sajidine, was 17 years old when she had her most dramatic stream yet. She was streaming Dota 2 on Twitch from her Arizona home when she suddenly heard a disturbance coming from the next room. Confused and concerned, she quickly left her streaming setup to figure out what was going on. But when she left the room, the viewers heard those words, "On the ground now." Within minutes, an armed man entered Sajidine's room in full view of her followers watching from around the world. The guy took out a bunch of items which seemed to be weapons before turning off the lights and disconnecting the camera, bringing the stream to a very abrupt end. The robbery had been witnessed by one of Sajidin's close real-life friends, who immediately contacted the police and gave them the address of her home. When the officers arrived, they discovered that there were 2 robbers stealing her personal firearms, her computer, and other valuables. They managed to chase and arrest one, but the other remains at large even to this day. As a consequence of this tragic event, Sajidin's channel was shut down by Twitch due to terms of service violations, despite the fact that she was the victim of the attack. I'm Jasmine harassed. It was September 2020, and I'm Jasmine, a popular Twitch streamer, was in Osaka, Japan for an IRL stream. She, like many other streamers, believed that the country was one of the safest places for tourists. But, of course, female streamers continue to have complicated experiences when doing IRL streams, and she just happened to join that very unfortunate club. Jasmine was exploring the city, interacting with locals, and creating content in a place she had never experienced before. But just about everywhere that she went, she started to experience some very unwanted attention. At one point, a total stranger walked right up to her, groped her waist, and poked at her breasts. Nothing she could do would get rid of him. All she could do was just start walking and hope to eventually lose him. Of course, he followed her for several blocks before eventually giving up entirely. Her followers were urging her to get out of the situation and to keep walking, but even after the assault, Jasmine could not bring herself to go to the authorities, knowing that Japan's police are ineffective and often choose not to pursue these cases, blaming the women instead of those responsible. Level 4. Wreckful's last stream. It was July 2nd, 2020, and Byron Wreckful Bernstein was ending his stream. He seemed kind of different, expressing a mix of hope and despair about how things were going. He urged his viewers to connect with one another and to find friends to play games with. A very unusual ending for him.
Alright, chat. I hope you guys had a nice day. I'm gonna go offline. I guess I'll try to find something to watch for a tiny bit before I pass out.
He also said that he was feeling lonely and that he wanted his fans to support one another.
If you guys get lonely, you should talk to each other maybe and find some friends to play games with if any of you play games.
Everything was just extremely strange for the viewers. Everybody who had followed Wreckful knew about all his struggles and battles with depression, but nobody really thought that he was still struggling with it. They thought he had somehow overcome that hurdle, or at the very least was managing with it.
Goodbye, everybody. Yeah, I mean each other, yeah, in chat. Because you probably have, there's probably a lot of like-minded people in the chat at this moment, you know. Have a good night. See you guys tomorrow or the next day.
But shortly after the stream, Wreckful ended his own life, shocking the gaming community, who realized that this was the very last stream they would ever see from him. Suddenly, his final words had a much deeper meaning than anybody had really assumed at the time. He was not just thinking aloud, he was urging people to take care of one another in the way he wished he had been taken care of. The gaming world mourned the loss of not just a skilled player, but a genuine personality who would be deeply missed by the community he built. On his channel, in the days after his death, fans gathered to re-watch the old streams, bonding in their shared grief. Elisa Jordana. In April 2024, Elisa Jordana, a former Howard Stern show writer, went live on YouTube in a stream she had titled, Not Doing Good. Elisa had been struggling in her private life, discovering that her boyfriend, Bahram Alipur, was cheating on her. He had been sending money to other women, something that she had found actual evidence of, and now she was going to confront him in front of the world. They were driving in Palm Beach, Florida, when Elisa went live. But after she accused him of cheating, the whole situation turned pretty horrifically. Unhappy with his excuses and lies, Elisa started hitting Bahram.
Don't talk. Don't talk.
Who quickly retaliated with much more force. Unfortunately for both of them, they were captured on Eliza's viral live stream, meaning that authorities had all the evidence that they needed. She was quickly arrested on felony battery charges, something she pleaded guilty to since they had the video evidence. But while Eliza was publicly willing to express remorse for her actions, she continued to point out that her now ex-boyfriend had behaved in the same abusive way, and that she never would have hit him had he not cheated. Of course, none of this changed anything, with many of the viewers suggesting that both of them were as bad as one another. Elgato. It was Halloween in Shibuya, Japan, and an Australian IRL streamer named Elgato was broadcasting her daily life around the holidays. But as Elgato and her friend were exploring the spooky new vibe of Tokyo's brightest district, viewers noticed something odd. Strange man was following them carrying a big Japanese sword, a katana. Initially, it was assumed that he was in costume or just doing something Halloween-y, but at a certain point, even Elgato and her friend became aware that they were being followed. No matter where they went, whichever weird, chaotic escape route they took, he was there. He would not leave them alone. The audience was watching them get more and more anxious as the tension got more and more intense, with multiple other men touching them inappropriately along the way. Eventually, a Good Samaritan saw how distressed they were and jumped in to help them get to safety in the form of the police. The police quickly arrested the guy before the situation could escalate anymore. But the trauma of the whole thing had taken a toll. Elgato and her friend were fully aware of how close they came to potentially losing their lives because of this guy. And their survival was all thanks to this one good guy. Streamer shot by security. Zoe Perez is a transgender YouTuber who conducts First Amendment audits, streams in public places to test constitutional rights. But her stream on February 14th, 2019 took an unusually violent turn. Zoe had arrived at a Los Angeles synagogue hoping to test out her so-called constitutional rights. For 40 minutes, she live-streamed the security guard, part of her usual stream activity, but he was aggravated by this whole thing. The guard had asked her several times to stop filming him and let him do his job, but she refused. As tensions rose, he got increasingly agitated, threatening to shoot her if she even attempted to approach the door. So what did she do? Eventually, the guard fired his weapon, grazing her leg, and the whole thing was caught on camera and posted to her YouTube channel. The guard was arrested on suspicion of assault with a deadly weapon, but the prosecutors simply could not rule out self-defense. There had been so many anti-Semitic incidents at that time that Zoe's all-black attire and backpack could conceivably have been seen as intimidating or threatening. But Zoe went on to file a lawsuit against the guard, the synagogue, and the school, alleging assault, false imprisonment, negligence, and discrimination. Ice Poseidon's bomb threat. On April 28, 2017, Ice Poseidon was live streaming from LAX while waiting for his flight. But while talking to his followers, he happened to make a fatal mistake. He accidentally broadcast his flight information to the entire internet. One viewer who happened to see it decided to take advantage of the situation, calling in a fake bomb threat under his real name, Paul Danino, on the very plane he was currently flying on. By the time the flight landed in Phoenix, Ice was escorted off the plane and immediately interrogated by the FBI, creating an incident that made national headlines across the US. Ice had to reach out to Twitch to ask about the situation. Because he had been swatted in a pretty extreme way, he was concerned that he would be banned or suspended because of it, despite it not happening on his stream, or it being his fault. Twitch assured him that they would not ban him for the incident, though they did later decide to permanently ban him from the platform, causing major outrage in the community who argued that the whole thing was thoroughly unjustified. Eventually, Ice had no choice but to abandon Twitch entirely and move to YouTube, where his streaming gained him a substantial following. And as for the person who called in the fake bomb threat, he was eventually caught and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Joshua Block's alcoholism. Joshua Block is a major TikTok success with 2.6 million followers tuning in regularly to watch his live-streamed drinking adventures in New York City. But none of it is pretty, almost always ending up in extreme public intoxication, vomiting, and erratic behavior. His content has featured him consuming alcohol to the point of extreme intoxication, with some claiming that he drank over 400 consecutive days, and he has even admitted to being an alcoholic. All of that has created an extremely complicated relationship between Joshua and his followers, many of whom are concerned about his health and well-being. They know that Joshua never takes off days when it comes to his drinking, and while it may be entertaining, it's also exceptionally dangerous. But many are convinced that Joshua is an alcoholic because of his extremely traumatic personal life. Not only did he lose his mother at a young age, but he's also autistic and probably overwhelmed by his sudden fame. Now, he's in a situation where he has to keep drinking to continue his relevancy, or lose everything and confront the more traumatic aspects of his life. Level 5. Norm's Solitary Confinement Challenge. On October 16, 2024, a YouTube content creator named Norm embarked on a 30-day solitary confinement livestream. At just 19 years old, Norm had amassed a following of over 1 million followers, all thanks to his extreme challenges, but none had been quite as intense as this. Norm wanted to test if isolation would lead to insanity, and he wanted to make sure he was doing it right. He confined himself to a small, dark room with nothing but a mattress and a hole in the wall. By November 8th, 2024, he had spent 22 days in isolation, over 550 hours alone with no communication to the outside world. On the stream, he was pacing, slumping on the floor, behaving strangely and erratically. He was making sinister, strange noises, rambling about intergalactic aliens. With every passing hour and every day, his viewers were more and more concerned about his mental health and well-being. Some of them were even offering to pay him if he quit. But others wanted him to keep moving forward to get to the end. Many continue to believe that this whole thing was just one big exaggerated stunt designed for entertainment. But the risk that he truly lost his mind can't be understated. Whether or not it was worth the attention, however, that's all on him. Only Use Me Blades livestream. It was May 2019, and a controversial streamer named Only Use Me Blade was live with another streamer, Willie Buckner, who just happened to be dating Blade's ex-girlfriend. The situation was awkward and tense enough, but this would be more devastating than anybody could have expected. Willie was on medication, specifically Ambien, an insomnia drug, but he was being encouraged to drink more and more by both Blade and the audience, who were sending in donations for every drink. But the more Willie drank, the more he started to lose consciousness, and the other streamers who were present just took advantage. With Willie out for the count, they started harassing him, painting his face, and slapping him. When he finally came to, he was just not responding to anything.
I fucking told you! I fucking told you, bro!
Instead of anybody helping him, the streamers just watched as Willie fell face first onto the ground. And then they just continued to take advantage of their unconscious buddy. They didn't call for medical assistance right away, leaving him there. By the time he did eventually get into the hospital, he was in the ICU for a week. A tragic end to a story that could have been avoided. Goodnight Chicken. It was February 12, 2024, and Taiwanese influencer Cheng-Ning Chuang, also known as Goodnight Chicken, decided to pull off a pretty crazy stunt on his live stream. Chen had live-streamed himself allegedly sneaking into a scammer compound in Sihanoukville, Cambodia, where he was seemingly attacked by a man wearing a military outfit, bringing an abrupt end to the stream and worrying his followers. The next day, Chen reappeared on his live stream, his hair shaved, shirt torn, and seemingly terrified. He said he had escaped from the compound but had been robbed and beaten. Even his wife posted a video saying that her husband was missing. But it took no time at all before the authorities realized the whole thing was a very elaborate lie. Chen and his friend had arrived just a day before planning the entire scenario, including purchasing all of the necessary props to make it believable. Now they were hiding out in an apartment with all of the props they used to stage their abduction. The stunt had backfired horribly. The two of them were arrested and charged with inciting social unrest, and just days later, they were each sentenced to 2 years in prison and fined accordingly. Level 6. Aqualadora. March 2018. Streamer Simone Scott, also known as Aqualadora, was a guest on Austin's show Twitch channel, taking part in a live-streamed interview. Everything had been going just fine, but then Aqualadora got a pretty simple question. What's the worst thing you've ever done? Her answer shocked the world.
Well, I used to work as a veterinary technician, so I once killed someone's dog on purpose, and I
glow on purpose?
Yeah, but no one knew because, you know.
Oh my
professional, but
oh no!
Aqualadora proudly admitted that when she was a veterinary technician, she intentionally killed a dog. Not for her work or for any medical reason, but just because she could. Suddenly, that single clip went viral all over the internet, turning her into the latest villain of the internet. Her Twitch community overwhelmingly rejected her, hundreds of people threatening to dox her as a result. Of course, Aqualadora knew immediately that she had screwed up. If she wanted to continue streaming, she had to do something to undo all of the damage and get people back on her side. She came out and claimed that her confession was just one big joke, but it was too late. The damage had already been done. She had volunteered the information willingly and showed no remorse for it. Austin's show also jumped in to publicly condemn her for her claims, rejecting any suggestion that her words were joking or not serious. He wanted nothing to do with her. Ernest Wilson, Hide and Seek. It was April 4th, 2020, and Ernest Wilson III, a 24-year-old warehouse worker in Baltimore, was well known for his fun, creative drinking games, which he would usually livestream on Facebook. And despite the ongoing pandemic restrictions, Ernest was determined to do another one. He had arranged a drunk hide-and-seek party at an Airbnb for a group of selected guests, and by 2:32 a.m. the game was in full swing. Ernest was the searcher, having to find his friends in the darkness, all while streaming it. But as he searched for them, he noticed something weird, capturing on camera the sight of a shadowy figure climbing over the fence of the property. It didn't take long before Wilson realized it wasn't actually one of his friends, but a total stranger. As soon as he realized, the video took a turn. Wilson dropped his phone, leaving viewers hearing nothing but screaming and gunfire. The man was a violent burglar, one of two who had entered the property and announced a robbery. Wilson had been shot during the incident and tragically died by the time he arrived at the hospital. And, despite their best efforts, the police never figured out who exactly killed Ernest. Johnny Somali. Johnny Somali is one of the most notorious streamers anywhere on the internet. At just 24 years old, he has a reputation all over Asia for showing intense disrespect and public disruption toward the local culture. Somali's streams generally involve him hurling offensive insults and slurs at random strangers, causing major disturbances in public places, and otherwise just being generally offensive. Some of his more controversial streams have included Somali kissing and twerking on a statue memorializing victims of sexual slavery, proudly wearing a Japanese flag to trigger South Koreans, playing North Korean songs and adult content on South Korean transport. He's been arrested, detained, and banned from multiple countries, and yet he shows no signs of letting up. But now, South Korea has had enough. Somali is currently facing serious legal troubles, including a travel ban and potential charges for obstruction of business, public disturbance, and suspected drug use, all extremely serious for Korea. But his trial does not begin until March 2025, leaving him stranded in South Korea without income and, more importantly to him, no platform to cause trouble. Level 7. Mr. Deathmoth. On December 10th, 2018, Australian streamer Luke Monday, also known as Mr. Deathmoth, was live streaming Fortnite on Twitch when his 4-month pregnant wife asked him to stop playing and join the family for dinner. Luke ignored her repeatedly, no matter how politely she asked. Eventually, she got so frustrated that he would rather play games than spend time with her and their children that she started throwing things at him. He retaliated in a far more violent way. The assault was not visible on camera, but the sounds made it obvious what was going on. And even Luke's wife was quick to yell out that he had assaulted her right in front of their children. The viewers were so horrified by his shameless assault that they promptly alerted the police, who tracked Luke to his home and arrested him, charging him with common assault. But the consequences were much more extensive than just arrest. The incident led to Monday's permanent ban from Twitch and suspension from his job at Telstra. Monday pleaded guilty to the assault charge, bringing a very abrupt end to his streaming career. But the case took a very unexpected turn when it was revealed that both Luke and his wife had a history of domestic assault, leading her to be charged with assault in a separate incident. Luke ultimately avoided jail time and was instead sentenced to 14 months of community corrections. Vote Saxon 07. On December 18th, 2022, Stephen McCullough, also known on YouTube as Vote Saxon 07, was hosting a 6-hour stream promoted as the Violent Night Christmas Live gaming stream. But at the very moment that he was playing the games, his pregnant girlfriend, Natalie McNally, was murdered by him. The whole stream had been pre-recorded days earlier, carefully designed to make it appear as though he was home during the time of the murder, giving him a credible alibi. But to really sell the illusion, he had to explain why he couldn't talk to the viewers. So he told his 37,000 subscribers that he couldn't interact with them due to technical issues, and he even texted his girlfriend about the streaming issues at the time of the murder, solidifying his alibi even further. The whole thing was so convincing that the police quickly ruled him out as a suspect. He had gotten away with murder. Almost. An in-depth examination by cyber experts revealed that the footage was pre-recorded, the first nail in the coffin. They later found CCTV footage showing McCullough's bus trip and taxi ride home, contradicting his alibi entirely. Stephen was arrested and charged with the murder, hailed as a master manipulator and a straight-up cold killer. But he continues to wait to stand trial in May 2025.